Hello, everybody. My name is Jennifer Schwester, and I am so excited to be presenting for the National Foreign Language Center's Virtual Summit for the summer of 2022. Really happy that we can all join in and still be able to share and present with each other. So today I am just going to talk about, and it's a very short video, just about low prep connections. We do need to connect with our students. We're busy, we have a lot of time, we deserve some time off, and here we are in our summers off, and we're still connecting, we're still looking for that improvement in ways to make our classrooms even better than they already are. So what I hope to share with you today is ways that you can make some connections, rethink maybe some of your classroom structure for the day, and just add in a little bit that's not going to take a lot of time on your part. Very briefly about myself. As I said, my name is Jennifer Schwester. It is going to be in September, my 24th year of teaching French. I am currently in my 10th year at Brick Memorial High School, and I've also been practicing yoga for 8 years, which included becoming a certified yoga instructor. So I've been really enjoying these past few years learning how to bring my two loves together, my love of teaching French, and my love of yoga and the importance of that mindfulness meditation and movement. So this low prep connections is going to deal with the environment of our classrooms. How are we creating the safe and supportive learning environment to prepare for our learning? And so one thing that I do say to all of my students, we know that idea and the saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And also, what is said in my classroom stays in my classroom, except, and there are exceptions, and I make this very clear from the beginning, if we're being cruel or unkind to anybody in that classroom or who may not be in that classroom, that's not tolerated. If you are discussing bringing harm to yourself or hurting yourself, that I have to reach out to other people. And also, if you are going to harm others or start to create something that's going to be harmful to others, that also has to be brought to outside sources. But what that means is what happens in the classroom that stays in the classroom. If there is a student who perhaps comes in and vents about a teacher, and I get it, we get frustrated. They might feel that it's comfortable to go into your space and vent about this coworker of yours or that coworker or this student. And what I usually do is I kind of just cut it off at that moment. I say, listen, I hear that you're upset about something, you want to talk about something. Would you like to go in the hallway? We can talk for a few minutes, or can we talk when there's a pause in the classroom routine or at the end of class? And during that time, one, I try to be a good listener. Also, I do remind them about those three, those exceptions. You're not speaking in front of everybody else, so that I'm stopping that. That's fine. We do need to vent. We are human beings sometimes. And hopefully I'm able to hear where they are coming from or try to get an idea and help to steer them in a better direction, reframe that situation, perhaps from that teacher perspective, and also perhaps give them some suggestions. How do I reach out to that teacher and perhaps make connections or try to change that situation? So while they're not shouting and yelling or talking unkindly about another teacher or another student in front of that class, they do have that opportunity to be heard. And also, once reminded of those little rules, and how can we better go about this? Because sometimes when we're in our mindsets, we just don't know how to rationally think about it, and to help guide them through that. Because remember, our students, that prefrontal cortex still is not fully developed, no matter what grade we're teaching, even high school. And therefore, we do need to sometimes guide them in that. Another very low prep way of connecting with my students is being inclusive with language. And that is really changing how we call everyone together. And I am not perfect. I did say to a group of students the other day who did, I know, all identify as female. I did say, guys, come on, let's get started. And they all looked at me and I said, I'm sorry, it is Friday afternoon. And that was not the correct expression. What one would you like to hear me use? And they said, well, you could say girls or students. I said, okay, for all of you, that's fine. I made sure everyone agreed. And, we're human. My brain is old. When we are taught a certain way, unfortunately, that is what our brains hear. And when we're tired and stressed, as I was on a Friday afternoon, when we still have 8 days of school left, my brain reverts back to how I was taught in that environment that I was taught in. But the fact that I was able to call attention to that and speak to them and have that open conversation is really essential. So making sure it's person-centered, not gender-centered, non-ableist, and being open to change. If you hear yourself saying something that is not going to work, or you call a student by the pronoun that they do not want to be called by, and there we go again. But, being able to stop and say, I am truly sorry. I just caught myself saying that because, remember, I have a 50-year-old brain, and this is the word I wanted to use. It just did not come out right away. And they appreciate that. It really, one, makes us some more human. The fact that we can identify that this was not the word I wanted to use, and I'm open to correction about that. So making sure, knowing what pronouns your students would like to be called by, if you are speaking to them individually or speaking to their parents and other colleagues at school. I also do a quick Google form survey at the beginning of the year. What is your name? What pronouns would you like me to use for you in class? What name would you like to be called in class? And I know that there are schools where you have to call them by the full name. You can only call them by what's on the roll. Listen, if a student wants to be called a certain name, I will call them that certain name. And I also ask them, am I allowed to use this in class in front of other students? Yes or no? And am I allowed to use this in correspondence with your parents? So I have a student currently who is identifying in another way and has chosen to change their first name, but does not want it spoken about at home because it is a minefield at home. But that's not my judgment. That is not for me to judge. It's not for me to try to change, speak to the parents. So when I speak to the student in class, it is one name. That student uses the name that they would prefer in class. The other classmates use that name. But when I correspond at home, it is the other name. So it is a little bit of work, but not preparation on our part, but giving our students that that safe space is what I'm trying to go for. Also, when we're speaking about families and homes, especially when we teach these units, we do need to give them all-encompassing words: grown-up, adult, children, family. Just because I use my own crazy family as examples because I do have stepbrothers and I have a half brother and a half sister, and I have a stepsister on the other side. So I do show that this, it is not just them. I freely talk about my family, but I also talk about how my stepsister and we don't call each other stepsisters. We refer to each other, my sister, and our children are nieces and nephews to each other. And yes, even though those are gender identified, that's, our children are doing that right now. But, what do we say? Family members. Sometimes a family is not somebody who lives with you in your house. And there's so many reasons. Our students are going through so many situations. Sometimes I just give the general words: baby, child or children, teenagers, adults, people or persons, and human beings. And let them choose from there. Let them choose how they want to explain their family. And I tell them all the time, I say, if we're doing a family unit and you do not want to discuss your family, Feel free to create your ideal family. Feel free to make a family out of all of your friends. If you'd like to pick a famous family from TV, and sometimes as jokes, they'll pick the Kardashians, and that is fine. Because what is the point? You know, we want them to be using the language. We want them to feel comfortable, and not every student feels comfortable talking about their family situation. And that is fine. I've also made a really big effort over the past 2 years now of trying to find more inclusive pictures, not only of people and different identities, but also just finding pictures that are neutral. You know, it doesn't have to always be describing a person. We don't always get an idea, but there might be a physical object that we can correspond to that adjective. And also using adjectives, you know, with languages that have gender differentiation, using those adjectives with the students, teaching them instead of, you know, and if the opposite doesn't have a non-gendered word to use, like calm, then just teach them to say, I'm not calm. That's fine, you know, and, you know, just because, you know, in our books, you know, that's not the adjective list. Well, throw that list out, because, you know, on the adjective list on the books that I still use in school, you know, and I use them. Okay. So, you know, the only 3 hair colors that they give are blonde, brown, and sometimes a redhead. Well, my students have blue hair. My students have green hair. My students have black hair. They have pink hair. Use the vocabulary that works for them. Make up your own list. Sometimes I even ask them in their first language, give me the list of adjectives. If you pick 3 adjectives you would use to describe yourself. 3 physically, 3 personality, what are they? And I take them home, and when I have a spare moment, but, you know, even if you get a couple, figure out those words that you can use for them and start giving them those words. Those are the words that they want to use. Those are the words that they want to remember. You know, not everyone is feeling beautiful or handsome. Not everyone is feeling pretty. You know, it's okay that we identify these emotions and give them the words that they want to explain themselves. And even with our lower level students, not even explaining that, but they can see from the pictures what some of these look like. They can talk about it with the number. I'm feeling 1 today. I'm feeling 2 today, 3, 4. When they walk into my classroom, just because I teach French does not mean that I only have up the flag of France, or I only have up the flag of Francophone countries, because maybe that's not their flag. Maybe that is not their identity. And yes, I have those flags up, but I also have the flags up that my students identify with, or they are from, or they are very proud of their culture and their heritage. And why should we not be talking about this and giving them the language and the target language, those words? So, but again, before we do nationalities, because again, in my book, they're all European, all of them. That is it for level 1. So that list is out the window, you know, but, you know, they do want to know how to say Mexican or Puerto Rican or Costa Rican. And one student said that she wanted Egyptian. Okay, you want to know how to say Egyptian? I'll give you Egyptian. Whatever you want, I will put in there, because those are the words that are important to them. I'm also not calling up the house and looking, is this really your nationality or not? But if that is the nationality that they are interested in, they would like to learn about, there's no problem. Also, again, with adjectives, I always tell my students that when they are writing about themselves, I am not going to correct the form of the adjective that they use, because I do not know where any of my students are in this journey. Maybe they don't either. And what's the point? Do I want to know that they understand what these words mean, that they can talk about themselves, or that every little point is correct grammatically? So I tell them, I say, if you're writing about a person, as long as the word fits the situation, I'm good with it. If you're writing about an object where we do have a clear delineation in French and Spanish and Italian and many other languages, yes, then we need to work a little bit more on our accuracy there. So moving, so again, changing that mindset of what is essential to us. What do we think our students need? And also comparing it to where our students' mindsets are right now. Also connecting with our students, I stand at the doorway, I greet them. Some of them, maybe, it's a little challenging looking at somebody and greeting them. We have not had to do this. And yes, we're not quarantined anymore. Everybody's in school. Nobody's really wearing a mask unless they choose to in New Jersey. They still need reinforcement of these skills. And there is nothing wrong that just, even though my classes are 11th and 12th graders, yes, we still use those emojis and we talk about and we greet each other because these are essential life skills. So emojis are great. Color representation, you can use that. What do these mean? On Twitter, I want to say Meredith White retweeted this, or somebody shared it, but she comes to mind because I think this is right up her alley. And emoji mix is just something to break up just that general use of emojis. In my slides that I'll share with you at the end and will be available also through NFLC, the link to emoji mix will be in there. But what you do is you'll click on that plus sign and you'll get two different emojis together and they combine. So it's usually an emotion and maybe like a face and an item, or it could be a face and an item. Like the other day, I got a loaf of bread with a heart in it. So, use those to discuss this class. They're goofy, they're silly. Let them turn to their small partners and discuss. Or one week I had them write sentences based on the mix. I did 3 of them. They had to write a sentence for each of them. They had to read them to their friends. Did we have similar sentences? Did we interpret that emoji mix a little bit differently? So fun ways to do that. Going back to the our dry erase boards, whether you use the board as they walk in the classroom or they have their individual ones. Let them draw, let them write. They love, even the high schoolers like to draw on the board. Yes, they do. Because when I'm absent, I come back and I find notes to me all the time. And I'm like, why did this sub let you on the board? But anyway, but I do let them, let them draw a face of how they're feeling or have a prompt in the target language. What's your favorite sport? Something to just start the day off. And that does give them something to do. They can write it anonymously. If it's something that they're proud of, I love this sport and everybody knows it, then let them sign their names. But you're contributing, they're feeling part of the class. They don't have to say, this is me. This is a picture of emoji magnets. Those are also available. If you have those funds, you could do those too. I think there's some really fun ones in there. And talk about with your classes, what words can we assign to these emojis? What do you see them as? Or what do you use them as? And one of my favorite ways to connect with the students, and I think it's because I'm a snacker. I need to snack. We use a lot of brain power at school. You never know when you need lip balm. You never know when you need lotion. Those mornings you forget to brush your teeth or put on deodorant. It happens. You don't know what all of your students' situations are. So, if a student is hungry, I feed my student. If a student's nodding off, I let them sleep to some extent. I do check in with them. Do you need the nurse? What's going on? For a lot of them, a lot of my students, we live at a shore town. A lot of my students work late. Some students are working still because their parents were not able to work. If the students don't feel safe, be their safe space. So I do have food. I have other supplies, personal hygiene supplies that students, they can just go in, take when they need it. Their friends know that they could come in the room and take whatever they need. And snacks, we use brain power. If we don't, and I teach at high school. My high school starts at 7:10 in the morning. Not every person is awake enough at 7:10 in the morning to start to feel hungry. But by the time they get to second block in my class, 80 minutes later, they're hungry and they've missed breakfast at school, or they didn't get their breakfast at school, and they need something to tide them over to lunch. And it's a very, minor little thing. I am very fortunate. I have a lot of students who kindly donated this. The bins were donated. I had just seen this idea it was either on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. I posted it. I said, I would love to do this in my class. One family reached out to me, said, we'll drop off the bins for you. People were dropping off snacks, personal hygiene products. Even some of the kids will come in if they took something, they'll come in, hi, I bought you 3 to replace the one I use. Now, not every student has the ability to do that. That is okay. But so sweet and so kind, and that they know that is there for them. So if you have any other questions, would love to reach out to me. Please send me an email at jennyzenyoga@gmail.com. Please feel free to scan the QR code if you would like those links to all of the sites for the slides. The presentation will also be available, the video and the slides, through the NFLC. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present this summer. I'm so happy to be a part of this project. And I look forward, hopefully I will be seeing people all around the United States in the upcoming year as we continue to connect online and in person. So please take care of yourself, enjoy your time off, take some time for yourself. And I know it's June, but have a great school year, whether you go back in August and September. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care.